The Pentagon leaker, Jack Teixeira, is he a hero or a zero? Because in the United States, we do have laws to protect whistleblowers, and Jack Teixeira is not the first person to leak classified documents to the public in the world. You also have somebody like Edward Snowden. So in this video, I want to sort of compare the two, and you'll see real quick why Jack Teixeira might be in a lot of trouble here. And why sometimes the US government may be really mad at the leaker, but the public is okay with it. My name is T-SPLY, let's get to the video. So like I always start my videos, leave your comments down below if you think Jack Teixeira even comes close to being called a whistleblower. Now, what exactly is a whistleblower? The technical term for a whistleblower is a person who informs on a person or organization engaged in an illicit activity. Essentially, if you work for me and you know I'm doing something illegal and I tell you not to tell anybody and then you tell on me, you're a whistleblower. So because of that, the United States actually has a law to protect whistleblowers, not only in the civilian world, but in the military world. This is called the Military Whistleblower Protection Act. Prohibits retaliation against a member of the U.S. Armed Forces who makes or is perceived as making a protected disclosure within the scope of the law to an authorized government recipient. Now, a lot of people agree that the Whistleblower Act is rather vague, and that might be for reason. Because there are times where, like, a private on the bottom of the food chain doesn't necessarily know all of the secrets. That's not to say that privates or whoever shouldn't report when something's going wrong, but there may be times where you are completely wrong and you're giving away classified information. So you need to be very careful with the Whistleblower Act. Although it's supposed to protect you, it could also really blow up in your face. And again, if you're going to be a whistleblower, especially in the US military, you better know what you're saying is to protect the public, or if you're putting it out there knowing the US military is doing something illegal. So we will get to the leaker Jack. I first want to go to Edward Snowden because he's a really interesting case that we can all sort of relate to. And this is a great comparison in how if you are going to be a whistleblower, the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it. Now, I'm well aware a lot of people don't like Edward Snowden, but a lot of people do like Edward Snowden. Now, Edward Snowden was a member of the NSA. And he also served in the US military. And essentially, Edward Snowden raised the curtain and exposed all the secrets of the NSA. As in, they are quite literally spying on everyone. Every phone call you have is in a database. And here's where things are a little conflicting. We had something called the Patriot Act. And the Patriot Act came really soon after 9/11, where it allowed the US government a little more of ease, essentially, to look in what the US population is doing. Because in case we had sleeper cells or people who wanted to do more harm in the United States, this allowed for US government agencies to directly spy on them and to gather data. Which a lot of people were on board with, because back in 2001, I don't think anyone could predict that we live now in a day and age where if I talk about Taylor Swift, my phone asks me, do I want to buy Taylor Swift concert tickets? And what Edward Snowden also exposed is that the Patriot Act, the wording looked like it was only going to spy or look into people who were legitimate suspects. Not someone like me who's joking around with my friends and saying words I'm not supposed to say on the phone when I'm actually talking about Call of Duty. Edward Snowden also put it out there that we are tracking everyone in the United States and all of your conversations, and not once have we ever actually tracked a sleeper cell from this program. So because of this, Edward Snowden ended up leaving the United States and is currently still in Russia. Now, is he classified as a whistleblower or not? To Edward Snowden, he's classified as a whistleblower. In fact, he even wants to come back to the United States, and here's what he has to say.
I would like to return to the United States. That is the ultimate goal. But if I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison, the one bottom line demand that we all have to agree to is that at least I get a fair trial. And that is the one thing the government has refused to guarantee, because they won't provide access to what's called a public interest defense.
Now, a public interest defense. The issue is the United States doesn't have one, but what is a public interest defense? It's essentially a way for somebody to go to court, but they're not going to be charged as a criminal. Because what they were doing was trying to educate and to help the public in their best interest. But again, the United States does not have this. If anything, Edward would be trialed as a traitor. Essentially, espionage. And he knows this, so I don't think he will ever come back to the United States unless there's some sort of pardon. But we're trying to compare Edward to Jack. What's the difference? The difference is Edward Snowden was high up in the food chain, like he was actually within the NSA and he was doing his job to the fullest. Edward even considered himself a patriot. What he was doing, he was really trying to help the public. And look, I'm not like an Edward Snowden fanboy, I'm just putting it out there. There's a big difference between Edward Snowden and Jack, and we'll get to that. Edward also put out all of the information and was rather transparent about everything. Like, he wasn't doing this to try and look cool. He even admitted, what I'm doing is ruining my life. I'm doing this for the public of the United States. And then really had to risk his life by going to Russia because Russia could have sent him right back to the United States. And that's why Edward Snowden actually has a lot of support as a patriot. And a lot of support as somebody who actually exposed the secrets, because those secrets happen to be not necessarily harming the public, but I think a lot of the public felt misguided. So let's get to Jack. What is different about what Jack did? The thing about Jack is that even though he was a low-ranking airman, he had access to a really important database. It's called the Joint Worldwide Intelligence Communication System. It's essentially a hub of top-secret information. Now, most people in the US military have to get some sort of security clearance. And this is a way for the US military to back themselves up, almost like an insurance policy. Because when you get your security clearance, and I even had one, and I think I still have mine, you're essentially signing your life away saying if you give away any secret information, you are going to be in so much trouble. And I'm going to take a wild guess and say Jack had signed a security clearance, if not more of a security clearance. Like top secret security clearance. And there are different levels of security clearance depending on how much information you're supposed to know or not know. But nonetheless, a classified document can even be someone's social security number. So the whole thing of leaking classified documents, yes, it could be super extreme, but it could also be not as extreme, if that makes sense. In the case of Jack, it was rather extreme. Now, the biggest difference between Edward and Jack is that Edward Snowden was putting out information that was supposed to help the public, thus a whistleblower. Meanwhile, the information Jack put out there really did not have much to do with the legality of what the US military was doing. The US has achieved deep penetration of most Russian security and intelligence services. Okay, I hope they did that, and that was probably expected. Again, where's this whistleblower thing? Here's one where I think people hyped up a little too much. The US is spying on top allies, including Ukrainian President Zelensky. When you really dig down and think about it, Ukraine is not technically a part of NATO, although they are a major ally, and I'm not saying Ukraine is doing anything bad, but when you give them all of your technology, you might want to look into what they're doing and hoping they're doing everything okay. So, using the word spying, okay, but I think it's more analyzing and watching is the correct terminology here. Another really big one that I think got thrown way out of proportion. The US doubts Ukraine's spring offensive will make significant gains. And many people turn this into like the craziest story, but again, think about it, Ukraine has been in a defensive posture for a while now. And it's very hard to all of a sudden take all of your guys, get out of the trenches, and push into Russia. It doesn't work like that, so I don't see this as like the biggest deal ever. And of course, the world media turned this into, now Ukraine, after seeing these documents, they're not going to push towards Russia. In fact, Ukraine already dismissed all of this. But getting back to the main point, leaking all of this information, I don't see anything illegal about this. I just see this as the US military trying to protect its assets. And probably if you dig into any books of any military ever, they're doing the exact same thing. Now, getting to Jack leaking all the information on Discord, I actually want to put this out there. Jack Teixeira is not the first person to leak classified documents on the internet. That actually goes to NASA. NASA leaked their own classified documents by putting it on the internet, and ironically, the Soviets found out what the space shuttle program was all about, and they stole a lot of the plans. And I know NASA's not technically part of the Pentagon, and they are a public entity, but they didn't want all of their propulsion information and aerodynamic information being leaked out to the public, and they had no idea the internet was going to be as open as it was at that time. So before we hate on Jack Teixeira, NASA, you guys did it too. The other thing about Jack is that it doesn't help that his Discord name was Thug Shaker Central. And apparently this was an online gaming chat group where Jack thought he was the leader and was just giving away classified documents to look cool in front of all of his friends. There were even times where he verbatim just typed it out but didn't actually send the picture. So in the grand scheme of things, I think Jack is in major trouble. He's not going to be protected as a whistleblower. He's going to be trialed as a traitor and under espionage. And he might even be put under 2 trials because you have military law and you have the civilian law. And the military law is of course called UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. And I already looked up what happens to you under UCMJ if you violate the whistleblower laws. You can be prosecuted by court-martial with a maximum punishment that includes bad conduct discharge, dishonorable discharge, 3 years confinement, or total forfeiture of pay and allowances. Essentially, he's in really big trouble. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I even seeing anyone implying that Jack is a whistleblower or was trying to do this in good faith. Now, in no way, shape, or form have I seen anyone really stick up for Jack and saying, he's just a whistleblower, he's just a hero. I just wanted to make a comparison where you do have people like Edward Snowden who sort of gets away with putting out classified information and the public is okay with it. Not everyone, but way more than Jack. Now, I do think there's a lot more to this case that we might not know about, like they're going to look into everything that Jack has done because all we know is what happened on Discord. We don't know about phone calls or emails. We don't know if he tried working with outside governments. So this is definitely going to be a long process, and I'm sure we will not hear a lot about it, but some about it. Anyway, again, let me know what you guys think. Do some of you think Jack is a legit whistleblower? I doubt any of you do. Leave your comments and opinions down below. My name is T-SPLY, and I hope you enjoyed the video.